One of the things I struggle with all the time when I'm having conversations about the energy transition is the situation we have where it feels like there's a competition going between technologies. There's a situation where it almost feels as if people are treating energy technologies like sports teams. Like you've got your favorite energy technology, and it's the one, right? It's the best. And no matter what kind of logic, science, reason, engineering, concepts are involved, your technology rules over everybody else's. Nowhere does this feel more um, like more of a situation than the world of nuclear power. Nuclear power has very ardent supporters, and certain corners of the internet you will find this to be really true. And the problem that I have here is when I have these conversations like I'm about to have right now with this video, is I get accused of being anti-nuclear. I get accused of being unrealistic. I get accused of being associated with a certain political party. That I'm afraid of nuclear power and all the old stereotypes that are going on. The situation here is that we are in a media landscape where, for whatever reason, nuclear power is in a spotlight. It's put on a pedestal, especially in 2021 to today, 2024. The last few years, this technology has seen a meteoric rise in attention. And the reason why it bothers me is because this stuff is not what's being deployed in terms of significance in the energy transition. Right now, we are building the equivalent of 1.7 gigawatts of solar per day. Every 24 hours around the world, we're building another 1.6 or 1.7 gigawatts of solar. That may, what does that mean? To most of us are like, well, what do I care? What does that mean? Well, realize that 1.6 gigawatts is the capacity of this Hinkley Point C nuclear power plant that's being built in England. Just the other day, they got their reactor vessel delivered to the site. This plant started being constructed in 2007, or at least planning was started in 2007. 17 years ago. And we're sitting here reading this article about how much of an achievement this is. Whenever you read the article and they say that it's not supposed to start generating electricity until 2030. How many plants like this are being built around the world? It's not that many. Yet we are building the equivalent of that out of these in 24 hours. And some people will play devil's advocate and they'll tell me, well, the capacity factor of that nuclear plant is higher than solar panels, so you're not making a fair comparison. Okay, we're building the equivalent of a Hinkley Point C every 5 days. You get as many terawatt hours per year out of the solar panels we install every 5 days as what compared to what you get out of this. I don't know if I can ever communicate how powerful of a description that is, how serious that is. Why is the news media landscape not covering solar power or even wind power or batteries the way that they cover nuclear? Every time a story about nuclear power comes out, it's on the front page of every paper in the world. But yet every day we install 1.6 gigawatts of solar and you don't hear a peep about it. It just happens. I think the issue here is that this is cool, it's hip, it's kind of seeing a moment. I'm thinking since the 2001, 2022 sort of energy crisis, especially in Europe, there is this mythology that surrounds nuclear. The biggest example that I still to this day, 2024, I have arguments with people about Germany and its energy transition. right? The people are basically blaming Germany, and they tell me how stupid Germany is because they shut down their nuclear power plants, and they had to rely on France to get electricity. And I'm just like, wait a minute. First of all, they were supposed to shut those plants down, which total was what, 6 gigawatts? Something like that. They were supposed to shut those plants down before the COVID pandemic, or 2020. And they kept them online because of this energy crisis. Meanwhile, in France, 25 gigawatts of their reactors were offline for unscheduled maintenance because of corrosion problems. And this energy crisis in Europe was blamed on this so-called stupidity of green Germany, when in reality, you could look at France and say, you guys have half your plants offline. So much for it being reliable, right? And to this day, we have people that I argue with about this subject and just have this mindset that nuclear power is above everything else. And if we look at this presentation, which I made a while back, but we'll see some of the stats on Germany here. So we can see this chart here, and we can see that renewable energy, everybody says Germany's stupid, they replaced their nuclear power plants with unreliable wind and solar power. Well, the reality is that here's renewable energy and its generation. Here's nuclear. Basically, if you take the losses of nuclear and coal in Germany, renewables made up for it. They know exactly what they are doing. They are completely aware of what they are doing. They're not just, there's this idea that they're just following some ignorant Greenpeace person or something. No, this is a fundamental engineering decision that's being made here. They know exactly what they're doing. We can see here that red is nuclear. The solar power, the wind power, those more than made up for like the loss of nuclear. So we can see just how these lines, basically, if you follow across here, you can see that basically they replaced nuclear with solar and wind. And they also replaced whatever losses in coal, mostly black coal. It was very deliberate. There wasn't this just idea that greenies got their way and they have all this power. Okay? Their GDP. Here, they killed their GDP, right? Remember that story? Anyways, my frustration is that we have, every time a news article comes out about nuclear power, it's all over the papers. But yet every day we build 1.6 gigawatts of solar, you don't hear a damn thing about it. California now has 10,000 megawatts of batteries. That's just craziness. I never would have imagined seeing the day where we could say we have batteries in the gigawatts. Texas is well on its way to be there too. You look at Texas and it's renewable energy. Why don't they build any new nuclear power plants in Texas? We were supposed to get 30 reactors in the US back in the 2000s. Guess how many we got? 2. And they were over budget and over schedule by 6 or 7 years and $15 billion. So unless somebody comes up with some kind of miracle, and I'm saying it really needs to be a miracle, like a dramatic shift, nuclear power is going to be more expensive and it's going to take longer to deploy than renewable energy. You know, there's talk in the US about tripling our nuclear power. That would mean installing 200 gigawatts of capacity. All right, 200 reactors Um, that's like trillions of dollars worth of investment. Trillions of dollars, and that's only going to increase our electricity generation by, it might take nuclear from 18% to 50%. You still have the other 50%. What are you going to use there? Renewables? Probably. Well, you will, because that's what we're building now. In a few years, we're going to have more solar than nuclear in the US in terms of annual generation. We already have more capacity because I can build that without specialized skills, without, you know, crazy quality control requirements. It's so easy. If I was an executive of an energy firm and I had to take my pick today as to which technology I wanted to deploy, it will be this, and there won't even be a question. This is what we're going to build. And we'll throw in batteries because the batteries will allow us to take advantage of the fact that the grid is going to have a low price during the middle of the day, and we can pump that solar into batteries, and then when evening rolls around, we can sell it for $100 a megawatt hour. The economics take care of themselves with solar and batteries, or maybe wind and batteries. I'm more of a solar person just because I can envision how I would do it, how I would install it myself. Wind is a little bit more heavy construction oriented, but still it's very cheap. And in most locations in the US, I think wind has a slight edge over solar in terms of just installed cost. It also works at night, you get generation at night, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. The advantages here, the only advantage of nuclear power has one single compelling advantage, and that's it. That it operates independent of weather. That is the only positive thing that I can say about nuclear power. Everything else is a liability, right? You can't throttle these plants down economically. Everybody says, well, you can. There's no technical reason why you can't load follow with a nuclear power plant. Well, there might not be a technical reason. I know you can design them to do that. But nobody wants to do that because if you spend $10,000 a kilowatt, you need to be running balls to the wall in order to pay back your investment. No investor is going to accept. Everybody now is talking about how long they last. Oh, they last 60 years, right? Okay, well, if you can make it last 60 years, do you think an investor is going to take a 1 or 2% return on investment? That's never going to happen. The only way that would ever get built is the government just says we're going to do it. And the really funny thing about nuclear is that with the political parties, there's this kind of idea that right-leaning politics supports nuclear and left-leaning politics doesn't, which is more of a nonsense than anything, because it's like, well, 50% of liberals support nuclear and 51% of conservatives support nuclear, so hey, conservatives support nuclear more than liberals. Well, like that makes a big difference. But this takes large-scale, centralized financing and basically guarantees everything from the Price-Anderson Act on liability to managing the radioactive waste. There needs to be a high-functioning government in order for nuclear power to flourish. We see that in Russia, China, Sweden historically, maybe Germany when they had nuclear power. The United Kingdom built its nuclear power plants under the Central Electricity Generating Board, a state-owned corporation. So I don't see anybody in the private market building these things. It's never happened. We've never had a merchant nuclear power plant. We've had lots and lots of merchant solar plants, though. Plenty of those. I mean, there's so many of those lined up to get in the door in the interconnection queues. Like in PJM, there's like 200 gigawatts of solar in the interconnection queues on a system that only has a peak load of 150 gigawatts. That's incredible, right? The energy transition is here. The technology of the day is solar power. And whether you take that to believe that or not is up to you, but I can guarantee you that there's hard data out there that will confirm my statement. And that's it.